So what's the cost of living in Washington, D.C. and nearby Montgomery County, Maryland? And how does it compare to other areas both locally and nationwide? We're about to find out right now. Hi, my name is Henry from Hot Homes. We're a husband and wife real estate team based here in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area and specializing in Montgomery County. Now this video is going to be a little bit on the longer side, so let me quickly give you the short version of it so that way you can actually just scroll through the video as you need based on the sections that you're interested in. So if you look at the overall cost of living in a particular area and put it into a number, that national average is going to come out to a certain figure. And the way the cost of living indexes are calculated is they take that overall cost of living, then compare it to the national average. To start, Washington, D.C. is 56.1% more expensive to live in than the national average. To put that into perspective, that's about 5% more expensive than Boston and 24% cheaper than New York City. Now, to broaden that a little bit further, San Francisco is more expensive than New York City, just the same as Washington, D.C. is more expensive than Boston. Now, Washington, D.C. is about as much more expensive than Boston, comparatively, as New York City or as San Francisco is for New York City. The biggest contributors to the higher cost of living would come down to housing, transportation, and cost of food. In fact, housing actually constitutes nearly double the national average, so you can expect to spend nearly double the national average just on your housing. So what exactly are we going to cover in this video? To start, we're going to compare how Washington, D.C. compares to other parts nationwide relative to other large metropolitan areas. Then we're going to go through each of the major cities in Montgomery County and see how they rank compared to other places nationwide. Then we're going to explore how Montgomery County compares to other counties and cities surrounding the DC metropolitan area. Now, for a lot of people who are relocating into the area, rental amounts are very, very important because they're going to be deciding between renting or buying, or if they know that there's a high likelihood that they're going to be relocated, the rental amounts are going to be important because you might end up trying to rent out as an investment property rather than selling your place. And last, we're going to compare how specific aspects of cost of living compare to the nationwide average. So how does Washington, D.C. compare to other metropolitan areas nationwide? Well, number one, as we talked about, the housing prices are going to be one of the largest contributors. However, one thing to consider is that healthcare costs are actually one of the 10 cheapest in the entire country. So as I stated in the summary, Washington, D.C. is 56.1% more expensive than the average place in the United States. Now, comparatively, I'm going to go from the most expensive to the least expensive among the cities that I pulled out. San Francisco is at a whopping 86.1% more expensive than the nationwide average. New York is 80.4% more expensive than the average part of the United States. From here, it gets more affordable. Boston is at 51%. Chicago is at 15% above the nationwide average. Miami is 11.6% above. And Dallas, Texas is 2.7% below the nationwide average. Now, between 2019 and 2020, we saw about a 1.3% overall increase in the cost of living. As we compare those costs of living, we're going to start close to Washington, D.C. and work our way up the I-270 corridor, and then kind of branch out into some of the other cities in Montgomery County. Bethesda is about equivalent with Washington, D.C. at 56.1% more expensive than the nationwide average. Potomac and Rockville are actually equal, nearly equal at 56%, so just a 0.1% difference. Then we have Gaithersburg, which is 55.8% above the nationwide average. Montgomery Village at 38.4%, which is the lowest on this list. Germantown at 40.6%. Clarksburg at 38.9%, so a little lower. Then when we get to Poolsville, we're actually at 46.6% again. Olney is 55.9% above the nationwide average, with Silver Spring being 56.1%. Now let's take a snapshot of the DC metropolitan area and scroll back a little bit so we can see. So I'm about to pull up a map. And here you can see that Washington, D.C. and Fairfax County are actually the most expensive places according to the overall cost of living index. And Howard County, Montgomery County, Loudoun County, and Fauquier County in Virginia are on the more expensive side, but not quite as high as D.C. and Fairfax County. Following behind that, we have Anne Arundel County, Carroll County, and Frederick County, and Prince George's County. Once we get up to Baltimore County, then the cost of living index does go down. Now let's take a look at some of the major cities. This chart doesn't include every city or every major city in Maryland, and in fact it leaves out quite a few important ones. However, it gives you a general idea of what you can expect. So I'm going to pull up the chart right now. And as you can see here, the most affordable cities in Maryland, again according to this chart, would be Baltimore, Columbia, Ellicott City, Glen Burnie, and Dundalk. And topping this list, we have Silver Spring, Waldorf, Gaithersburg, Rockville, Bethesda, Bowie, and Potomac. Filling in that middle spot would be Germantown, Maryland, and Frederick, Maryland. Now, these calculations are based on total cost of energy, food, healthcare, housing, and transportation, among several other factors. Now, let's take a look at what it looks like to rent in the area. Now, while they do exist, studio apartments are actually relatively rare in the area. However, we'll still go over these numbers. So, nationwide, you can expect to pay about $821 per month for a studio apartment, versus in this area where you spend $1,415. Moving up, you can expect to spend $930 a month for a one-bedroom place, and that will cost you a little bit more at $1,454. Now again, I believe that number is a little bit odd just because there aren't too many studio bedroom apartments, so they will likely cost about as much as each other. Jumping up into the two-bedroom, that's where you break into the four-digit mark per month, so $1,148 a month nationwide. And over in this area, we're actually going to be paying $1,665 on average per month. Now, the three-bedroom mark is really where things jump out, because nationwide you can expect to pay $1,537 a month, but here we're actually breaking $2,000 a month on average for a three-bedroom place at $2,176. Now, one of the reasons for that would be at three bedrooms is when you reach the point where you're actually talking about townhouses and detached homes. And then, of course, by the time we jump into the four bedrooms, nationwide, you can expect to spend a little bit more at $1,791 a month for a four-bedroom place, and it jumps up to a whopping $2,678 a month for a four-bedroom place. Now, the reason for that is once you get into that category, you're generally talking about detached homes, which will generally command a higher rent. So something that's interesting to note is that if you're looking to purchase a place with the idea of renting it out, then you actually get a lot more money for a 3 or 4 bedroom place compared to a 1 or 2 bedroom place. But on the flip side, if you're actually kind of comparing between renting versus buying, then that's one of the things you'll have to look into to see how the current mortgage rates and the current inventory will plan out in terms of what your monthly payments will be. Now in the area, generally your studios, your 1, 2 and den, and 3 bedroom places you can find within condos or apartment complexes. 4 bedrooms are not as common. Townhomes are extremely popular in the area just because of their lower cost, lower maintenance, and overall space. A lot of the townhouses are actually larger than some of these detached homes. However, there are a lot of detached or oftentimes called single-family homes available in the area as well. So if you're eventually looking to rent out, you're probably going to get your best return for investment on a townhouse. So now let's look at the cost of living index. On average, the nationwide average is set at 100. So anything above that is going to be more expensive, and anything below that is going to be less expensive. Maryland as a whole has a cost of living index overall of 113, and that jumps up to 139.4 for Montgomery County. So this makes Montgomery County more expensive than the rest of Maryland on average. The cost of living index for groceries in Maryland is 105.2 and 113 for Montgomery County. So housing is really where the cost of living skyrockets here. In Maryland, the cost of living index is set at 127.2, and it jumps all the way up to 195 for Montgomery County. So what that translates to in terms of home prices is, on average in the U.S., it costs about $231,000 and $200 to purchase a home, again on average. Now for Maryland, that jumps up to $294,100, so nearly $295,000 for the average home in Maryland. But if you look at Montgomery County, then the average home price is $458,000 and $900. So a little over $450,000 on average for a home in Montgomery County. Now, despite the exorbitant housing prices, you actually are not going to pay that much more for utilities. So Maryland on average is at 105.6, and Montgomery County is actually lower than the Maryland average at 104.8. Now, if you're moving here, expect to spend more on transportation than you likely are on the average place in the United States. Maryland as a whole is set at 119.3, and Montgomery County being even more expensive at 138.7. So now I'm going to bring it to you. For the next video, would you like to see what the average home price here in Maryland at $450,000 would actually get you in various parts throughout Maryland? Or would you rather see what the cheapest home versus the most expensive home looks like here in Montgomery County and the DC metropolitan area? Please write into the comments below, and I'd love to see your responses. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this useful, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.